Hunter Biden was all smiles last night, the first son hobnobbing with the Washington elite at his dad's White House state dinner just 2 days after that sweetheart deal. But his troubles are far from over. Republicans releasing damning testimony given by 2 IRS whistleblowers. They claim that the president's son received preferential treatment during the department's investigation. But what's got everyone talking is the bombshell WhatsApp message they gave the committee, the one that implicates Joe Biden. The 2017 text has Hunter Biden invoking his father's name while pressuring a Chinese business associate connected to the Chinese Communist Party for payment. Quote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction." The text completely blowing up Joe Biden's consistent claims he's never been involved in his son's business dealings.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Did Hunter Biden commit a crime? Have you spoken to your son, Mr. President-elect?
Proud my son.
Are you confident your son Hunter did nothing wrong?
I'm confident.
Do you still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were Russian disinformation at his smear campaign, like you said?
Yes. God love you, man. You're a one-horse pony.
Hunter's lawyers not denying that the first son actually sent the text message. Quote, "Any verifiable words or actions of my client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own and have no connection to anyone in his family." And as usual, the White House is stonewalling like crazy.
Just not going to comment from here.
The text message.
What I can tell you is I know that my colleague has dealt with this. He addressed this at the White House Counsel. I just don't have anything else to share.
In the shakedown attempt?
I just answered the question. I just answered the question.
No, you didn't. Yes or no? Was the president involved in the shakedown attempt?
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question by telling you my colleagues at the White House Counsel has dealt with this, and I would refer you to them.
Joe Biden's attorney general responding to the whistleblower's claims and denying that there was any interference.
Mr. Weiss, who was appointed by President Trump as the U.S. Attorney in Delaware and assigned this matter during the previous administration, would be permitted to continue his investigation and to make a decision to prosecute any way in which he wanted to and in any district in which he wanted.
Okay, well, there you have it. So on the one hand, we've got Hunter Biden's lawyer not denying that the White House or that the WhatsApp message was sent threatening that guy connected to the Chinese Communist Party company that they were negotiating with. And yet Joe lying and continuing to say he knows nothing about his son's business. That's kind of, who do you believe, Joe or Hunter?
Someone goes down, and it will be Hunter first. The only question is, will it stop at Hunter? Joe Biden is going to have to make a statement. He's going to have to say that my crackhead son was making things up. That is literally going to have to be what he says. My son, who's addicted to drugs, was making things up about our relationship and our ability or an attempt to influence China in a pay-for-play bribery scheme. Or Joe Biden has to say, Hunter's telling the truth. It's one or the other. And the levels of corruption are so fascinating as they begin to unfold, Judge. By the way, at the most shallow level, we know now that Hunter Biden was not paying taxes while his dad goes out there and says, hey, billionaires have to start paying their taxes. But that's literally the most shallow level. What we find out, of course, is the media is corrupt, the intelligence agencies are corrupt, the DOJ is corrupt. The final card to fall in this house of cards is when we acknowledge with evidence, and we are close, that Joe Biden is corrupt. It's either Joe Biden or Hunter is a crackhead who's making up lies.
Okay, so then we've got, on the other hand, we've got Merrick Garland Kennedy saying that, you know, David Weiss, who was appointed by Donald Trump, had all the authority he needed to indict and do whatever he wanted in the investigation, except now that we have whistleblowers telling us that the AUSA on the case working for David Weiss, her name is
Leslie Wolf.
Leslie Wolf, said she didn't want to ask about the big guy, and that she was told not to ask about the big guy. So we have another dichotomy here. David Weiss has not yet spoken. Merrick Garland says, I will give him permission to speak. And it appears that the prosecutors are saying they couldn't even go near the big guy investigation.
So it makes you wonder, who were they working through? Who were the proxies that were delivering this information to the assistant U.S. attorney on the case? Because, you know, it seems if you've got this direct evidence linking the president to some pretty nefarious activities, wouldn't you want to investigate that? And they wanted to ask some of Hunter's associates directly about the connections between Joe Biden and some of these deals that were going on. And they weren't allowed to do that. And, you know, they do it in a way that gives them so much cover that we'll never really be able to get to the truth, because those conversations probably happen verbally. I can't imagine there's a lot of text messages after, you know, Lisa Page and Peter Strzok that leave a trail from, you know, someone in the Attorney General's office to the assistant U.S. attorney. But obviously something has happened here, and we deserve to know what it is. So I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat. It doesn't happen in successive administrations. But also, like, we always wonder, like, how did Hunter get this money? And now, like, he's being a big, fake, tough guy. Yeah. And he's threatening people using the power of his father's connections.
Right. And just a little primer here. David Weiss wanted to be special counsel. OK, he didn't want to stay just the United States attorney, because everyone knows here and in the Department of Justice that you do not get an indictment, especially against a high level person, unless it is approved by the Attorney General. And I bet my house on that. So let's go back to yet another dichotomy where we've got these two whistleblowers. One is a high level career IRS agent. The other, and this individual has spent years in the criminal investigations. And then we've got a second whistleblower, and neither of them has a political axe to grind. They talk about Rob Walker, the guy who set up the LLCs, saying that Joe Biden actually made an appearance at a meeting with Hunter, and that Walker and the others set up the deal with the Chinese energy conglomerate CEFC. And then we've got Bobolinsky, who has already told us, that a Navy lieutenant retired, that Joe Biden came into another meeting with Hunter and the Chinese, and specifically that there was money, a percentage put aside for the big guy was held, quote, separately with the association hidden. Who do you believe there?
Big if true. The same thing that you have to say about all of this. I mean, James Comer and Chuck Grassley, Jim Jordan, Nancy Mace have all gone on TV and talked about things like this. And it's a very intricate story. I can't follow all of it. I don't know all the names as well as you do, but I know that they haven't been able to produce the goods yet. We were promised tapes a week and a half ago by Chuck Grassley.
Whistleblowers.
No, well,
I'm not asking about the tapes. I'm asking you about the whistleblowers.
But I'm giving you a complete answer that will involve the whistleblowers. I just want to say, for the record, that the informant that Rudy Giuliani talked about missing, Giuliani had to recant on that. Chuck Grassley, more highly respected than the rest of them, talked about tapes
so we're going to go
can't
to the
be
history of whistleblowers.
Yes. So, okay, so let's get to Gary Shapley, one of your whistleblowers, the career guy. There are three core claims that he made about what went on that have already been refuted. First and foremost, he said that Garland lied to Congress, saying that Weiss had total authority.
Well, he did. I just told you he did.
You don't know.
A United States attorney cannot make a decision.
That's actually a separate point of this.
Through the United States attorney.
Weiss himself told Jim Jordan on June 7th that that was not true, and that he did have complete authority.
Of course he's going to say that. He wants to keep his job at this point. He delivered the goods, which was to deliver no goods.
Could you just let me get through it, and then you can keep going? The second point about this, he alleged Shapley that Weiss asked to be a special counsel, which we already talked about, and Garland has refuted that. If you want to just say that everybody in Christendom is a liar, that's one thing. But I'm going to trust the Attorney General, especially one who testified under oath. Third point. Shapley alleges that there was political interference and that Weiss was denied the right to charge Hunter Biden in D.C. Now the D.C. U.S. attorney got in touch, went to the Washington Post last night, and he said that's absolutely not true, that he could have been charged anywhere. So there was no political interference whatsoever. I have maintained from the beginning that if all of what you say is true and they're, like the Gaudis, that I will believe you if the facts are shown to me and I can actually see it and there are direct lines between all of this. That has not been done yet. And this whistleblower having 3 core components to their testimony about what happened being refuted already.
They're not refuted.
They are.
They're not refuted.
What if 50% of it is true?
I'll take 25.
What do you?
25%.
Go ahead, Tyrus.
Now, listen, aren't the whistleblowers, if they're found to be lying, can't they be prosecuted?
Sure.
I mean, they're risking their freedom for these statements, so I think you got to put some weight on that. But let's keep it real. This is the Teflon son. He's guilty on all things, and you always have that out where, like Will said, well, he's a crackhead, so he used his dad's name for influence. But I always look, you have to go back at patterns. Let's go a little bit further back. There is a reason why, with the great success that the Obama administration was having, that Joe Biden didn't just fall in and run. There's a reason. There was a reason they jumped over him to go to Hillary. And it was reasons like this, his sloppy work, his inconsistency. There's always been a cloud of stuff around him, whether he's lying about his background, he's lying about his accomplishments. There's always been stuff about bribery and whatever. So for whatever reason, he was not chosen, when clearly his entire career has been he wants to be president. Now, they used the thing he was mourning Beau. That doesn't hold water anymore. There was a reason why the Democrats said no. The pandemic had an opportunity, and I don't think anyone thought he was going to run. And now he's running, and all those things they tried to put to bed before are here now. So we can wait to see how it is, but if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I'm calling it a duck.
Let's have some foie gras, shall we?
Oh,
That's cruel, Kennedy.
It really is.
well,
Lemon juice and razor blades.
We'll have the fake foie gras.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.